Most people spend their lives searching for extraordinary strength, believing it only belongs to elite soldiers, champions, or people born different. They think resilience is something you earn after years of training, endless discipline, and impossible tests. What they don't realize is that life has been training you every single day without asking for your permission. Every setback, every betrayal, every sleepless night, every moment you thought you couldn't take one more step, became another lesson your mind quietly remembered. You survived things that should have broken your confidence. You adapted to chaos so many times that what once felt impossible slowly became normal. While everyone else was measuring success by comfort, you were learning how to keep moving through uncertainty. That's why some of your greatest victories don't even feel like victories anymore. You became so used to carrying heavy burdens that you forgot most people would have collapsed under half the weight. The strange part is nobody notices transformation while it's happening. They only see the result. They call you lucky because they never watched the nights you kept going when quitting would have been easier. They call you gifted because they never witnessed the countless moments when fear was screaming louder than hope, yet you kept putting one foot in front of the other. The human mind has a remarkable habit. Repeated struggle becomes instinct. Repeated discipline becomes identity. Repeated courage becomes automatic. What once demanded every ounce of your energy eventually becomes the way you naturally respond to pressure. That's why the people watching from the outside think you've done something impossible. They don't realize your greatest weapon isn't talent. It's the invisible strength built through battles no one else ever saw. The biggest surprise isn't that you accomplished what others considered impossible. It's that you stopped seeing it as extraordinary because surviving, adapting, and refusing to quit became part of who you are long before anyone else noticed. People love the idea of impossible because it gives them permission to stop trying. The moment something looks too difficult, they place it on a shelf reserved for heroes, legends, or people they believe were born different. It's comforting to think greatness belongs to someone else because then you never have to confront your own potential. You can blame talent. You can blame luck. You can blame circumstances. Anything except the quiet truth that life has been preparing you for more than you've been willing to admit. Nobody wakes up one morning with unshakable resilience. Nobody is handed a mind that naturally stays calm under pressure. Those things are built in places nobody celebrates. Every disappointment became another lesson. Every betrayal forced you to become more aware. Every sleepless night strengthened a part of you that comfort never could. While you thought life was punishing you, it was quietly teaching you skills that only pressure can create. Think about everything you've survived without realizing it was training. The days you wanted to quit but kept moving anyway. The moments when fear told you to run, yet you stayed. The seasons when nobody believed in you, forcing you to become your own source of confidence. None of those experiences felt meaningful while they were happening. They felt unfair. They felt exhausting. They felt like obstacles standing between you and the life you wanted. Looking back, they weren't obstacles at all. They were exercises. The strange thing about training is that it rarely looks like training while you're inside it. A soldier doesn't become stronger because someone hands over a medal. Strength is built through repetition, discomfort, and constant adaptation. Life follows the same pattern. Every challenge demanded another adjustment. Every setback required another decision. Every difficult season forced your mind to solve problems it had never faced before. Without realizing it, your thinking became sharper. Your patience became deeper, and your endurance grew stronger. People watching from the outside only see the result. They see someone staying calm in situations that make others panic. They see confidence where they expected fear. They see composure where they expected chaos. They assume you were born with something they never had. They never witnessed the years when your confidence was held together by hope alone. They weren't there when failure became your teacher instead of your excuse. That's why ordinary struggles often produce extraordinary people. The mind adapts to whatever it repeatedly survives. What once felt overwhelming slowly becomes familiar. Problems that used to steal your sleep eventually become situations you solve without hesitation. Pain doesn't always leave you broken. Sometimes it leaves you prepared. The greatest irony is that the impossible wasn't conquered in one dramatic moment. It was conquered little by little. Every time you refused to surrender when giving up would have been easier. Every small act of perseverance became another piece of your foundation. Every unseen battle strengthened muscles nobody could measure. By the time the world noticed your resilience, the real work had already been finished in silence, through countless moments where life had been training you far beyond what anyone else could see, shaping you into someone capable of carrying weights that once seemed impossible to lift. Your mind doesn't become unstoppable because of one motivational speech, one perfect morning, or one lucky break. It changes through repetition. Every decision you make, every habit you repeat, every challenge you survive teaches your brain what to expect the next time pressure arrives. At first, courage feels forced. Discipline feels exhausting. Confidence feels like something you're pretending to have. But the human mind has a remarkable ability to transform repeated actions into automatic responses. Think about the first time life knocked you down. It probably felt unbearable. Every problem looked enormous. Every setback felt personal. You questioned yourself, your future, and whether you had enough strength to continue. Then life tested you again and again. Every difficult season demanded another response. Every challenge required another choice. Without realizing it, your brain stopped asking whether you could survive and started focusing on how to move forward. That's how instinct is created. People imagine instinct is something you're born with, but most instincts are trained. A person doesn't stay calm in chaos because they're fearless. They stay calm because chaos has visited them so many times that panic no longer serves a purpose. Fear still appears, but it no longer controls the steering wheel. Experience quietly takes its place. The fascinating part is that your greatest habits are formed long before you recognize them. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, your mind records the pattern. Every time you refuse to quit after a setback, another pathway grows stronger. Every time you keep your emotions under control instead of letting them control you, your brain begins treating that response as normal. One decision doesn't change your identity. Thousands of repeated decisions do. People watching from the outside only witness the finished product. They see someone making difficult decisions without hesitation. They watch you remain composed while everyone else is overwhelmed. They assume confidence came naturally. They never saw the countless invisible repetitions that created it. They weren't there for the mornings you wanted to stay in bed, but got up anyway. They didn't witness the nights you fought battles inside your own mind while nobody else even knew a war existed. The mind doesn't separate ordinary moments from extraordinary ones. It simply learns from repetition. If you repeatedly surrender, surrender becomes familiar. If you repeatedly stand back up, resilience becomes familiar. Eventually, your first response under pressure is no longer panic. It's action. Not because the situation became easier, but because your identity became stronger. That's why some people appear almost effortless when facing enormous challenges. What looks like natural confidence is usually practiced discipline. What appears to be fearless determination is often the result of surviving countless situations that forced growth long before anyone was paying attention. One day people call your achievements impossible. They wonder how you stayed focused while everyone else gave up. They search for secret techniques and hidden advantages, never realizing the real secret was hidden inside ordinary days. Every repeated act of discipline became another instruction to your subconscious. Every difficult choice strengthened your automatic response. And over time, your mind stopped treating resilience as something you had to remember, because it had quietly become the way you naturally lived. People have a strange habit. They celebrate the finish line while ignoring the road that led there. They admire confidence without asking how many fears had to be defeated to build it. They applaud success without wondering how many failures were buried beneath it. Everyone loves the final chapter because it's easier to admire a victory than to understand the cost that created it. When they look at you now, they see someone who stays calm under pressure. They see composure where they expected panic. They see discipline where they expected excuses. From the outside, it almost looks effortless, as if everything somehow fell into place. They convince themselves you must have been lucky, naturally gifted, or handed opportunities that never came their way. It's a comforting story because it protects them from asking the uncomfortable question of what they might achieve if they endured the same process. What they never witnessed were the silent battles. They weren't there when you questioned your own abilities. They didn't hear the conversations you had with yourself after another disappointment. They never felt the weight of waking up exhausted while still choosing to keep moving. They weren't standing beside you when every door seemed closed, when every plan fell apart, when every promise from someone you trusted dissolved into another lesson about reality. The interesting thing about hidden battles is that nobody applauds them. There are no crowds cheering when you decide not to quit. There are no trophies for choosing discipline over comfort on an ordinary Tuesday. Nobody sends congratulations because you managed to control your emotions instead of letting anger make your decisions. Those victories happen in complete silence, yet they're the ones that determine every visible success that comes later. Every setback left a mark, but not the kind people imagine. It didn't simply create pain. It created perspective. Every rejection forced you to become less dependent on approval. Every betrayal sharpened your judgment. Every failure taught you something comfort never could. The wounds weren't decorations. They were classrooms, and every difficult experience became another teacher determined to prepare you for challenges still waiting ahead. People often believe strength appears suddenly, like flipping a switch. They don't understand that resilience grows quietly beneath the surface. While everyone else was measuring your visible progress, something invisible was taking shape. Patience replaced frustration. Clarity replaced confusion. Consistency replaced emotion. None of those changes were dramatic enough to attract attention, but together they transformed the way you responded to life. That's why the finished version always surprises people. They compare your current confidence to their current uncertainty without comparing your past struggles to theirs. They skip the years of invisible preparation and judge only the outcome. It's like reading the final page of a book and believing you understand the entire story. The greatest victories are almost always misunderstood because the world rarely sees what created them. They see the calm, but not the storms that trained it. They see the courage, but not the fear that had to be mastered first. They see the achievement, but not the endless repetition, sacrifice, discipline, and quiet determination that shaped it, leaving them amazed by the result while remaining completely unaware of the countless unseen battles that made that result inevitable. People think pressure creates greatness. It doesn't. Pressure reveals it. The storm doesn't decide whether a tree has deep roots. It simply exposes the roots that were already there. The same wind that tears one tree from the ground barely moves another, because strength was never created during the storm. It was built long before the clouds appeared. Life follows the exact same pattern. Difficult moments don't magically turn ordinary people into extraordinary ones. They uncover what years of unseen choices have already been building. When everything is calm, almost everyone looks confident. It's easy to smile when nothing is at risk. It's easy to speak about courage when fear hasn't entered the room. Anyone can claim they'll stay strong until life removes the comfort they've been leaning on. That's why easy seasons can be so deceptive. They hide weaknesses that only pressure can expose. Then the challenge arrives. Suddenly the excuses disappear and reality takes over. There isn't enough time to pretend. There isn't enough space to fake confidence. Whatever you've been practicing in private becomes your automatic response in public. If you've spent years avoiding responsibility, pressure exposes avoidance. If you've spent years developing discipline, pressure exposes discipline. The situation doesn't choose your reaction. Your preparation does. Think about the moments when everything around you felt like it was falling apart. Plans collapsed. People walked away. Opportunities disappeared. Nothing happened the way you expected. It seemed like life was trying to break you. Looking back, those were the moments that revealed abilities you didn't even know you possessed. You discovered patience because rushing no longer worked. You discovered resilience because quitting stopped being an option. You discovered clarity because confusion forced you to think differently. The fascinating part is that your greatest strengths often remain invisible until they're needed. You don't know how calm you can stay until chaos surrounds you. You don't know how determined you can become until every shortcut disappears. You don't know how much you've grown until life places you in a situation that the old version of you could never have survived. People watching from the outside usually misunderstand this process. They think you're fearless because they never saw the years you spent learning how to manage fear. They think you're naturally disciplined because they missed every ordinary day when you chose consistency over comfort. They think pressure somehow gave you confidence, when in reality it simply revealed the confidence built through thousands of quiet decisions nobody noticed. That's why preparation matters more than performance. The performance lasts a moment. Preparation lasts years. Every habit you build becomes another layer of protection. Every challenge you overcome becomes another piece of evidence that your mind is stronger than yesterday. Every difficult choice strengthens the foundation you'll eventually stand on when life demands your best. When the pressure finally arrives, you don't rise because you're lucky. You rise because you've already done the invisible work. The world only notices the moment you stand tall, but it rarely notices the countless mornings, failures, sacrifices, and lessons that strengthened your foundation until pressure had no choice but to reveal the person you had quietly become while everyone else was busy waiting for easy conditions that were never coming. The most powerful weapon you'll ever possess will never be visible. It isn't money. It isn't status. It isn't influence or physical strength. Those things can be taken away, replaced, or outmatched by someone with more resources. The weapon that changes everything lives where nobody can see it. It's the way your mind responds when pressure arrives. It's the habits you've repeated so many times they become part of your identity. It's the quiet discipline that keeps moving long after excitement has disappeared. Most people spend their lives searching for external advantages. They believe success belongs to those with better opportunities, better connections, or better circumstances. They underestimate the force of invisible preparation. They don't realize that the strongest people usually win long before the competition even begins, because they've already trained their minds to stay focused when everyone else becomes distracted. Think about how habits are formed. Nobody notices them while they're being built. One disciplined decision looks insignificant. Waking up early one morning means almost nothing. Choosing to stay consistent for one day doesn't impress anyone. Refusing to quit after one disappointment isn't enough to create headlines. Yet those tiny choices begin stacking on top of each other until something remarkable happens. The ordinary becomes automatic. What once required effort becomes your natural response. That's why people often misunderstand greatness. They think extraordinary performance appears out of nowhere. They never see the years spent repeating small actions with relentless consistency. They only witness the outcome. They call it talent because they never witnessed the discipline. They call it luck because they never counted the sacrifices. They call it impossible because they never experienced the invisible process that made it inevitable. The greatest battles are always fought before anyone else knows they exist. Every morning you choose purpose over comfort. Another layer of strength is added. Every temptation you refuse, every excuse you reject, every promise you keep to yourself becomes another piece of armor protecting your future. Nobody applauds those moments because they aren't dramatic enough to attract attention. Yet those quiet victories determine how you'll respond when life finally tests everything you've built. Pressure has a way of exposing invisible habits. When chaos appears, people don't suddenly invent discipline. They fall back on whatever they've practiced the most. If they've practiced panic, panic takes over. If they've practiced consistency, consistency takes over. If they've spent years strengthening their mindset, their first instinct becomes action instead of fear. That's why preparation is always more valuable than confidence. Confidence can disappear in a single difficult moment. Preparation remains because it has become part of who you are. Eventually, the world begins calling you exceptional. They admire your calm. They praise your resilience. They wonder how you keep accomplishing things others believe are impossible. They search for hidden secrets, special techniques, or extraordinary gifts, never realizing that the greatest weapon was never something you carried in your hands. It was something you built inside yourself through countless unseen decisions, silent sacrifices, disciplined habits, and unwavering consistency until your mindset became so powerful that what others called impossible had quietly become your normal way of living.